Well, this one ought to be a new one, so we'll see how this works out. I'm actually recording this on the laptop in my car, so if you hear any odd noises going on in the background, well, that's what's going to be happening. Just wanted to give an update on what I actually sent as part of my documentation for my DD-149, which is the paperwork that will essentially update my DD-214, which is my discharge paperwork if you've never served, and potentially get me some benefits and assist me with moving forward with my life. And so, as you can see on the screen, there is the original thing that I outlined, that I asked for opinions from other service members and things like that. Never got any opinions, never got anything from anybody, even though I've got family members who served around that same time, things of that nature. Nobody seemed to want to offer an opinion. Even my veteran services officer was scared to actually put anything in. So, well, I just did it myself like normal. But anyway, as you can see, I addended section 13, which is where it says, hey, what's the problem and what do you want us to do? So, and the sections 26 and 28 still refer to the reason for discharge and or separation and the code there listed therein. So I just said sections 26 and 28 changed to reflect lawful reason for separation. And what I want to happen is reasonable recompense of rank, pay, and benefits denied me by early discharge from service, and benefits to apply moving forward from date of correction. So, pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. And I truncated the, hey, gee, what was the problem part, to include language from my actual orders and the recommendation for separation. And this might help clarify things due to the time frame. So, and section 15 and 18, and I actually had to include an additional piece on there because I hand wrote it all on the updated form, because, hey, I don't have access to a good printer to where I can just fill this out. I'm not giving them the opportunity to potentially lose my documentation. So, nope, we hand wrote it. And, my handwriting's not perfect, but it's legible. They should be able to see what's going on. So, in section 15 and 18, I stated, according to the plain text of Title 10 and 38 of the United States Code. Now, those two portions of the code were listed in regards to my discharge, certain aspects of each, but you would almost have to be a lawyer and be able to look it up. Even though if you've got a few brain cells to rub together, you could figure it out. But one part references another part, etc., etc. You have to kind of know ladder logic in order to figure this stuff out. But anyway, according to those two parts of the U.S. Code, no one in my chain of command was authorized to discharge active duty enlisted personnel from honorable service. Those are the keys. Prior to 1 year from the date of the end of the enlistment term, except under specific circumstances clearly defined by law. So I was honorably discharged. I do not have an administrative discharge, which basically means you either couldn't maintain your grades or you had disciplinary actions, things of that nature is generally what leads to an administrative. Nope. Honorable service, not an administrative discharge. So essentially, under those circumstances, they could have, instead of asking me, hey, do you want to go to the surface fleet or do you want to go home, they could have simply, and should have simply, ordered me to the surface fleet. And of course, because I signed the contract for a 4-year hitch, that's what I would have done. But under this specific circumstance, the law that allowed them to do that, to separate me, I believe was repealed in 1994. And as far as the law is concerned, the law never existed. So I'm going off of current law that's listed under Titles 10 and 38. So to continue, since we were not at war at the time my orders were issued, the president was not authorized to discharge me early, thereby negating all delegated authority or regulation not outlined by U.S. Code. So essentially, the other part of my denial of benefits listed 38 CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, which that authority was delegated by the President to the Secretary of Defense, of course now called the Secretary of War once again. But the Secretary of Defense was the person who put in the Code of Federal Regulations minimum time served. I did not make the 24-month minimum, but that's immaterial. Guess what? No one was authorized to discharge me, even though they did. Well, they were under the law at the time it was written, and at the time my orders were cut, but that no longer applies. So now it's going to be up to them to fix it. So, and here's where I give them the way I see it. Section 1A of my recommendation for separation states defective enlistment. That is how my discharge is coded. And then I put in there, which excludes active duty personnel. Because according to the way the laws are written, defective enlistment for any enlisted personnel only applies to reservists, National Guardsmen, and the like. It no longer applies toward active duty service. So guess what? That excuse went right out the window. And then by reason of psoriasis. And I just simply stated that's a medical condition, because it is. And according to all the exceptions that are listed that would have allowed them to discharge me early, the only medical item that's listed in there, I mean, there's items like family hardship, whether you might have be of a certain extraction when it comes to your race. Things of that nature, any other types of disabilities that were caused by your service. Well, my psoriasis was never diagnosed until I was through my boot camp, basic training at Great Lakes, just outside of Chicago, and then I went through up to Groton, Connecticut. The Groton New London sub base up there, and went all the way through basic enlisted submarine school, and was halfway through basic electronic rate training when this was in the middle of the winter, or essentially late winter, and I'd been stuck in class and my psoriasis lesions started acting up, so I eventually just decided to go to sick call and see if there was anything they could do about it. And essentially that's what led to my early discharge. So to continue, a medical condition which should place my reason for separation under the exception of medical disability. Now I say should, I'm not a lawyer. There may be other parts in the U.S. Code that I haven't seen, but we've got some fine professionals in the JAG court. They can look it up. And, if they want to explain it to me, that's fine. Also, as part of the documentation on the DD-149, it asks, hey, do you want us to contact you electronically? It may speed up the process. Now, my answer to that question was no, because I don't want them to be able to feed this to an algorithm, which I believe was why my initial denial of benefits that happened back in October of 2025, why that transpired, or actually September of 2025, why that transpired is because they just fed it to an algorithm. And the algorithm went, hey, no minimum time in service, therefore automatic denial. The thing probably printed the letter and mailed it to me, and 5 will get you 10, not one single individual at the VA looked at it other than to make sure that it was spelled correctly. And maybe not even that. So automated systems can be great. They can really help you out, but when you fit into a very specific time frame, because my discharge was in my final orders were cut in March of 1990. So, and we did not declare an official quote-unquote war or police action or whatever you want to call it. It was the first Persian Gulf War that was declared in August of 1990. We were not at war. So therefore, the president couldn't discharge me, and if he can't discharge me, no one in my chain of command can discharge me, other than Congress, who would have had to have done it specifically by writ of law, which technically they did, but that law is no longer valid. Now, all my orders and my DD-214 are no longer valid. Did anybody do anything wrong per se? No, it was lawful at the time. It's no longer lawful. That's all I'm looking for is a correction. And of course, the final thing that I stated, I stand by my oath, and if recalled, I will report for duty. Now, of course, I'm 54 years old, and they're welcome to recall me for duty, and I will actually report for duty. I mean what I say when I say I stand by my oath. I took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. I said it then, I meant it then, and that oath does not expire. But, if they call me to go to active duty, guess what? They're going to give me my medical benefits because I would be an active duty serviceman. And then guess what? They're going to discharge me immediately, or not even let me go back to active duty due to my age and also my particular affliction, which is an extension of psoriasis, the root cause of psoriasis and the root cause of my currently undiagnosed condition are one and the same. It's just basically it's caused by an overactive immune, and that was discovered while I was in Groton, Connecticut, sometime in February or late January, if memory serves, of 1990. So I just wanted to give a quick update and also see how well the laptop records in my car, just for funsies, and eventually I'll show you the setup that I have going with my solar panels and the battery in order to run this thing. But running the inverter makes a whole lot of fan noise, so I wanted to avoid that and see how well it worked out. But anyways, once again, no edits, no cuts. Just wanted to say, once again, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.